Firis is cute today, too. Chapter 10 brought with it the second batch of Rose units, with Heidi's debut as a playable character and Firis getting her first alt. So let's take a look at how they perform. We're breaking from the meta this time to run a breaker-oriented comp, just trying something different for fun. I like the multi-dimensionality the role has evolved into, and it continues to expand in the options it offers. When Firis was announced as a debuff-type supporter, we were more than a bit skeptical since debuffs weren't a function that needed dedicated units in the past. Looking at her kit, her main feature is AoE 35% all resist down debuffs. Her skill 2 applies this for a single hit, which means that unlike Sophie's, you're choosing between using it for your breaker or your attacker. If using it for your attacker, it's also competing with other single-hit debuffs like S. Ryza's damage received debuff, since the later one will consume the earlier one. Her burst is slightly more convenient, giving you 2 hits for the debuff but comes with the usual limitation of being tied to burst panel timing. The burst also comes with a 20% damage dealt debuff that lasts for 2 enemy turns. As for why she has a defensive debuff, I don't know. Her skill 1 is a single target attack that comes with a party-wide 10% skill damage buff. It would be nice for buffs like these to not be attached to negligible attacks that just eat debuffs. With skill damage buffs coming on everything, healers, tanks, breakers, equip, items, this one doesn't add much and probably distracts from her primary function. Her second feature is a passive that triggers whenever an item is used, giving her one next attack a very high chance of applying Frostbite afterwards. Frostbite is the ailment that was introduced with Christmas Resna that makes the next attack received by the enemy a guaranteed crit. As with all ailments, it's hit or miss, and the effectiveness falls entirely upon whether the devs allow it at all. Early on, enemies in endgame content had blanket full immunity to all ailments, but they've eased up on this slightly to 90% resistance in many cases. Though you're looking at possibly a 10% chance of guaranteeing a crit, the usual much RNG unless the fight is specifically rigged for the mechanic. Last, she has the same full ailment immunity that all the Rose units get. Overall, her gameplay value entirely comes down to whether it's worth carrying a dedicated unit for the all-resist down and the occasional frostbite application. I would lean towards no in most cases, unless you specifically need weakness to enable certain effects, as we'll see with Heidi next. If we look at her speed at 245, it's an improvement over her base version, but still quite a bit behind the faster breakers you might want her debuff for. This will constrain your Memoria and equipment choices a bit. Pain. Finally, for synthesis, she's purple to red and the first character to offer magic resistance full for equip. Being able to double stack this allows you to get 30% damage reduction for a single hit at full HP per equip, which might be strong if the enemies only use magic and you can heal back to full between each attack. Anyway, TLDR, Firis is cute today too, so you'll roll her, right? Moving on to Heidi. Heidi is like Corny with random extras thrown in. Her skill 1 charges her next attack's break damage up 40%, but only against weakness. It also comes with a 10% item cooldown recovery. Skill 2 applies 30% strike resist down before hitting, and for another 2 attacks after. Since the resist applies before the attack, combined with something like Firis debuff, it's very likely she'll be hitting into weakness for the skill 1 buff to kick in. It also comes with a 15% phys attack buff to the party member with the highest phys attack for their next hit. Her burst has the same guaranteed force break that Ryza has, except it's all target and conditional on weakness. The condition makes it harder to set up in the general case, most likely requiring the support of Firis, items, or multiple rounds of her own debuff. It's less of an obvious go-to, and you'd need to consider whether the additional requirements are worth it compared to an alternative. But in the specific case of everything already being weak to strike, the auto AoE break is extremely strong. The burst also comes with a 25% phys attack buff to the party member with the highest phys attack for their next hit. Finally, on top of all the other random bonuses, whenever you break an enemy with her, you get free 30% item cooldown recovery and a non-expiring 100% item damage that stacks up to 200%. And as with the other Rose units, she is immune to all ailments. Overall, the nice extras for strike debuff, fast items, and fizz buffs, along with AoE burst that auto-breaks vs strike weakness, makes her a very strong contender, though not as universal as S. Ryza. For synth, she's green to yellow and gives general break damage up for equip. There's links from Mary for general break, and into S. Ryza for fizz break or breaker Logi for magic break. Getting back to the action, we're running Chapter 10 VH on auto. We open with Firis debuff into Heidi break, which maxes our item gauge immediately. Liddy throws items and buffs. Eska lets the mushroom go ahead for targeting, then breaks the other mushroom, triggering buffs onto Lot, who takes it out. Heidi burst hits AoE to bypass her ST, targeting the Colossus. The mushroom breaks, triggering more item cooldown and setting up for items into Eska bursting to break the Colossus again, applying more buffs and debuffs. The golem hits hard, so one of our items is a healing item to recover some of the score lost from damage taken. Finally, Lot clears with just a skill 2. Second fight, we open with Heidi this time, so Firis doesn't eat a jellyfish counter. Liddy throws items, triggering Firis's passive, so her next attack may apply frostbite. Eska has intentionally reduced break gear so that Heidi can break the Colossus later for item cooldown. Round 2, Heidi breaks, then Firis bursts, which actually frosts the Colossus but not the jelly. Very high chance, right? And this sets up so that the Colossus will get crit automatically. But we would need to roll the crit for the jellyfish either way, because Eska's hit would use up the frostbite. Finally, Lot nukes with her burst for a ton of damage. And there you have it, Chapter 10 VHSS Auto with Breaker Comp. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown, gameplay demo, and unconventional party. Thanks for watching.